This had the makings of a beaut contest.
After a disappointing loss to Sydney on Friday night, Game 2 of the road trip to Brisbane was bound to be even tougher. North Melbourne at the Glass House. Chris Gent was the Giants' sharpshooter.
Gent now for three.
While Shane Heal hammered it home for the Bullets. There was fleeting moments in the first half when the Bullets threatened to shoot clear. North appeared rattled.
Look at that. That is huge. That's 50 metres. Oh. That's 50 metres. Oh. That is, I don't think I've ever seen a bigger three in the NBL.
But a Pat Reedy tray on half-time and the Giants trailed by only 5.
Oh, what a finish. Well,
Leroy Loggins finally broke the scoring shackles in the third quarter, while Heal again bombed from downtown.
And Heal knocks down yet another three.
Darryl McDonald did his best to keep the Giants within reach.
Oh, great anticipation, McDonald. Is a bit of showtime.
As Paul Rees fouled out, compliments of a tech foul, John really did most of the scoring damage for Brisbane.
Throws up the shot. Big bucket. That is a tough move by John Riley.
While Heal again had the radar on song, 6 points the gap with less than 3 minutes left.
Heal, big bucket. You see, that's just so frustrating.
But almost out of nowhere, the Giants stole the lead. Larry Senstock putting them a point in front with just 11 seconds left.
So they'll work down the clock, a no call. Reedy to Senstock. North are in front. 16 seconds left. Brisbane are going to get the last shot of the game.
Brisbane's response in the dying seconds, simply brilliant.
For three, makes it! Oh, what a shot! You are a genius, Shane Heal. Absolutely sensational.
And that was his 4th game in a week because of boomer commitments like Ray Borner. It didn't affect him too much, did it? North Melbourne won the battle of the boards 48-31, but foul shooting at 56% did hurt them. Mike Mitchell was 1 assist shy of his first ever triple-double. D-Mac had 14 assists and 4 steals. Chris Monk scored just 1 point in 11 minutes, but he is coming back from injury. Didn't play big minutes in Sydney either, and not relied upon to do much scoring anyway in the Bruce Palmer roster. He's a rebounder. All right, it's one thing to live basketball, but to marry it is quite another. That's sort of the case with Paul and Nicole Rees, who understand each other better than most couples.
Championship player and Australian boomer. She's a 100 gamer in the Women's National League. It's a basketball marriage made in heaven. It's only natural that I should want to be there with you.
Well, we met on a blind date. Through mutual friends. One was a Bullet and Jackie Lee, who plays for the Blazers.
What was discussed?
I made Nikki buy her own meal. How's that? It was back when I was playing for the Bullets. They didn't pay me very much.
He's not really very much of a gentleman.
I thought I was being a snag, you know, a new age guy. Everybody plays, you know, pays for himself, but apparently that's all very good in theory.
Paul and Nicole tied the knot in December last year in her hometown of Grafton.
Oh, I guess there's a fair bit discussed throughout the week. It preoccupies my life. Nikki's fairly committed to basketball with what she does. But,
you help each other out?
we tell each other we're bloody great players. Kids are great, aren't they? But I think they're ways off yet.
They think they'll be like 6'5" and 6'5" girls and 7' boys. So I mean, I don't know. We reckon they'll probably be throwbacks, and hopefully they'll do something that earns more money, especially if they're a woman, like a tennis player or a golfer or something.
While the North Melbourne Giants are defending their title of last season, the Dandenong Rangers are struggling near the bottom of the table.
Still on your side when you need me, girl.
They don't score enough points. The opposition keep outscoring them. And that's as tactful as I can be.
I don't think they're as much as a team as they were last year. I think they, I don't know, maybe lacking some of that team spirit. Maybe that's because they won and they're a little bit cocky. But I'd like to think it'll come back and they'll do it again.
Basketball is an obvious number one in the Rees household, but there are other interests, all the obvious ones.
We're both very much into keeping active and doing things that are on the active side. We'd like to get out and do some more camping and bike riding and things like that. Just anything together, really.
Everyone's favourite, going to the movies.
I don't like watching the Giants when he's not playing, so I guess.
Don't take offence to any of the other guys on our team, okay? I'm starting to really enjoy women's basketball, though. I think the body sheets are great.
Paul has stamped himself as one of the game's most improved players, but it seems the NBL is lucky to have him at all. A former Bullets teammate did his best to force his career into a different direction.
Well, Derek Rucker used to say he'd rather be a pop star, and I can see where that has its merits. In the meantime, basketball's pretty damn special. Notice she hasn't hit a shot here tonight.
Excuse me, I've hit more than you have.
You have?
That's the way love goes.
See?
We've got more too. Another chance at all-star voting still ahead of us, along with more match highlights and, of course, the man with all the answers.
Hi, it's the mailman, and I'm in the NBL's new offices. This week's letter comes from Phil Dent. He writes from Liverpool in New South Wales. Phil would like to know, why is there a salary cap in such a professional sport as basketball? To answer this question, we'll go to Bill Palmer.
There's a number of reasons for the salary cap. Firstly, our teams, although they're all equal partners in the league, they aren't equal in their geographic distribution. They have different market sizes, and obviously a single team in Sydney or a single team in Brisbane, given the population in those cities, has certain advantages over a team, say, coming from Geelong or Hobart, with representing a much smaller population. That's one of the things. Obviously, the primary reason also is to keep a parity in the competition. The uncertainty of outcome is very, very important if you're going to market beyond just those fans that like a team. So we see the salary cap both in keeping parity on the court and also keeping the league affordable for those teams that don't represent the larger market areas.
If you'd like to drop me a letter, simply address it to the mailman.
Take flight. Live it. Breathe it. Slam it. Dunk it. Do it, Falcons.
Take off with the Carlton Newcastle Falcons as they slam dunk the Sydney Kings. Friday, June 30th at the Newcastle Entertainment Centre. Get your tickets now from the centre. Ticketek or phone charge on 212121. Teams on court 7:30. Do it.
Welcome back to a critical matchup at the arena in Geelong where the Tigers toured. Melbourne needed a win here to break out of 50% and enhance their playoff chances. Geelong fans might have been excused for sneaking out after watching Andrew Gaze shoot Melbourne to a 22-point second quarter lead. The Tigers had it on a string, one of those classic scoring feasts. Geelong tried very hard. David Graham feeding Jeff Arnold, who shot 20 in the first half alone. Great offense, but all they could do was trim Melbourne's lead to 17 by half-time. Andrew Gaze with the spin and the bomb. David Graham showed through his determination here that his team was not ready to give up just yet. Nice little mid-range jump shot. Let's move ahead to the third quarter. More commitment. Cecil does the splits, and Melbourne is starting to collect fouls. They were conceding points on the line and in the paint as Geelong's superior rebounding and inside presence paid off. Jeff Arnold, is he happy or what? Andrew Walter, well, he continues to impress. 19 minutes and 8 points. This was 3 of them. But he was one of the 3 Tigers players on 5 fouls. Leonard Copeland scoring here, but he fouled out with 25 points. Whitehead also fouled out of the game. Now Geelong turned it around with a 36-17 third quarter. Curl feeding Graham. Jeff Arnold had a beauty, and this isn't him, but that guy's happy anyway. Fouling out with 31 points and 9 boards, the big fella. Great game from him. He shouldn't be too unhappy. Jeff, it's okay. Lindsay and Allen were doing it even tougher, I can assure you. Curl penetrates again. The Cats stormed home in the final term, 36-22. Cecil pulled down 18 boards with his 8 points, and Geelong moves back into the top 8 and pushing the Tigers out. The Super Cats, in overcoming that big halftime deficit, equalled the NBL record for second half comebacks. Joey Wright had a triple-double. He hit 22 of 23 free throws, a new NBL record, and well said, as Geelong took 50 foul shots to Melbourne's 20. Andrew Gaze, well, he did shoot 36, but his 10 turnovers and missing 4 of 8 free throws was uncharacteristic. Now, for another look at the All-Star Weekend competition, first, the clubs from which they come. The Northern clubs are Townsville, Brisbane, Gold Coast, Newcastle, Sydney, Illawarra and Canberra. The Southern clubs, the 3 Melbourne clubs, Geelong, Hobart, Adelaide and Perth. Here is the list of forwards you can vote for from the North. You've got to pick 2. Trimmingham, Loggins and Herzog. The other 2 are Bolden and Mitchell. The number 0055 22291. 291 for the North forwards. All right, moving to the South, you've got Vlahoff, Rose and Ronaldson, plus Fisher and Reedy. The number 0055 22292. 292 to pick 2 Southern forwards. That's fairly easy to remember. If you get it all right, you go in the draw to be one of 6 potential winners. And each winner will get a double airfare for 2 from Qantas, prize packs from Powerade, Future Forces and All-Star Games tickets. They're on the Friday and Saturday night, remember, if you're planning your weekend. T-shirt and caps from Uncle Toby's. And, of course, you'll stay for both nights at the Ramada Grand Hotel. Absolutely fabulous. And repeating our scoop from earlier this afternoon, the coaches for the big game. Bruce Palmer will steer the Northern team and Brett Brown will steer the Southern team. There they are. Brett Brown sure is in demand, actually. He's also attached to Australia's national coaching squad now. Speaking of which, the junior Aussies are ready for the upcoming World Championships. Peter Chapman looks at the under-20 team.
The success of the Australian junior women's team at the World Basketball Championships in 1993 was a catalyst for a major push in basketball funding. The current under-20 men's team became a focus for much of that money, and as such, the squad came under constant scrutiny from coaches at the Australian Institute of Sport over the past few seasons. Team coach Gordy McLeod has watched as a number of his players have moved from bench warmers in the NBL to starting 5 players today.
The good thing with this group is the depth that we've got. Not only do we have someone like with Sam's talents, but we've got other players to complement him in players like Aaron Trehere and Simon Dwight's playing very well at the moment. Mark Nash is getting good minutes in the NBL. Add to that players like Frank Drimich, Scott McGregor, Phil Doherty, Bradley McKinnon, Matt Shanahan. We've got a good group which goes 12 deep.
At the last World Junior Championships, Australia finished 5th in the men's division. Obviously, they're looking to improve on that ranking this time around.
All about when we go to Greece is tournament play, and we're going to have to play 8 games in virtually 11 days over in Greece, which is going to be very hot. So it's a matter of if we're on our game and we stay healthy and we win crucial games early on, who knows with this group, anything could happen.
Australian senior men's coach Barry Barnes is also keeping a close eye on this young outfit. They're expected to make up the nucleus of Australia's team for the 2000 Sydney Olympics.
A lot of talent there and more coming through the production line. Let's look back now at the weekend winners in the Mitsubishi Challenge. Southeast Melbourne, a big one over the Gold Coast. Sydney, an upset over Brisbane. Canberra, well, that was a tremendous game against Illawarra. Perth beating Townsville, likewise, a big game. Then you move on to Newcastle, hosting Canberra and winning, so the Cannons split their road double. Brisbane split theirs too with a win over North Melbourne, another tremendous matchup. Hobart beat the Gold Coast, so the Rollers couldn't manage a split, and they now have to try and get back home and win some games. Geelong, a big one over Melbourne, and that is a real bun fight just outside the top 8. Bearing in mind we've got the result of the Adelaide game coming up in just a moment. Let's now look at the ladders for the Mitsubishi Challenge. All right, Brisbane's win over North Melbourne secured that top spot because Southeast Melbourne didn't have to play on the Saturday and Sunday anyway. Perth just outside with Newcastle, who were looking great, and they played the Kings who are now down in 7th spot. Illawarra clinging to that 8th place on 6 and 7, but outside, have a look. Melbourne on the same record, Canberra and Adelaide on very similar records, 1 percentage point below them. And the Gold Coast, despite that double road loss, are still in some sort of playoff contention. Even Hobart, if they could string some wins together, have a chance. Now, going to WNBL, and let's review the results for the weekend firstly. Melbourne had a win over Canberra, Sydney over Melbourne Boomers, and then we've got Perth beating Dandenong. There was certainly no close games in the WNBL, with the exception perhaps of the 7-point win by the Flames over Brisbane, but the AIS did it quite easily over Tassie. The top 4 now have really divorced themselves from the rest of the league. Melbourne, Sydney, Adelaide and Perth. Now you can see Perth on 8 and 3, and outside Canberra a fair way behind. They have to do something drastically, and Brisbane really slipping away from playoff contention. Now NBL next week, they're excellent. Every game. Newcastle playing Sydney is huge on Friday. So is Melbourne and Brisbane. That should pack them out at Flinders Park, I hope. Canberra, Perth, Southeast Melbourne, Adelaide. You might even argue that Townsville Gold Coast is still a very important game. The Gold Coast are within reach of the playoffs. Geelong and Illawarra likewise. And Sunday, another huge game, North Melbourne versus Perth. And now, of course, for those people who are not able to watch the Adelaide-Townsville game this afternoon, right now, here is the result. And the Sixers have jumped into the top 8 now. They're 6 and 6, displacing Illawarra after that 16-point win over the poor old Suns, a double road loss. Sunday basketball, I will catch up with you, of course, on Sports Tonight, later this evening on Network 10. Lots of great hoops happening, as you saw next week in the Mitsubishi Challenge. We'll have it all for you on Saturday and Sunday. Bye for now.
Can I kick it? Yes. 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 Can I kick it?